talking about American English versus English. If it's Lego and not Legos, shouldn't it be math and not maths?
No. Oh.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Metacast by Naavik, the Roundtable episode. And today, I'm joined by David Amor, CEO of Playmint, and Matt Dion, Senior Product Manager at EA.
Hey. Nice
Hello.
to be back.
I need some more enthusiasm.
That wasn't enough? Oh.
Never enough.
It's early morning here in Los Angeles. Still waking up.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. I hope everyone is good and having fun and is enjoying spring coming about in the UK. We actually have an extended weekend, a four-day weekend. So I don't know how's it going with you, David, but it just feels like everyone's trying to cram in all of the meetings.
Exactly.
To get things done.
I was at GDC and then I had a week in the Caribbean, as I think you know, and then I'm back for a couple of weeks, then I'm up at Dev Connect in Amsterdam. So I'm trying to squeeze a lot in a very short amount of time. I forgot about the long bank holiday weekend. So yeah, that's squeezed everything.
Yeah, sorry, Matt, you're not on this weekend.
It's okay. It's already quite warm here in Los Angeles for the most part. It was like almost 100 Fahrenheit a few days ago. So,
what is Fahrenheit?
What does that mean?
Just specifying for you folks in the UK.
All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about Ubisoft ending the active development of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which was surprising news. Maybe not surprising to very knowledgeable people out there that can foresee the future as to why Ubisoft took the chance of introducing NFTs into one of their live games. We're also discussing Epic's raise of $2 billion, a big number, and their collaboration with Lego. And also Miniclip pivoting away from web browser games. We spoke about Miniclip exceeding 4 billion downloads. And yeah, it was very interesting to see this news follow up quickly from their milestone. So we'll dig into that. And I don't know, are you still not keen on showing your excitement for these topics?
I'm ready for us to plow into the first topic. I got all sorts of thoughts. I think the Epic Lego news is really big. It's $2 billion. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, huge. I guess, but I can't wait to talk about that. So I'm just reserving my enthusiasm, Sorry. Maria. Don't miss,
Sorry.
We're on YouTube now. They can see our enthusiasm in our faces, even if we're not, vocalizing it.
I'm just waiting for the starting pistol. That's all that's happening.
Matt, I hear you quite in low volume, actually. We're resolving technical issues live. This is good topic. I don't know if you can get your microphone.
Is this any better?
In. It's a little bit better, yeah. Yeah.
Well, keep going. I'll play with it.
Before we dive into the first topic about Ubisoft, I want to give a huge congrats to Returnal for winning the Best Game BAFTA award, and also doing a shout out to Forza Horizon 5 for winning the Best British Game Award, and Unpacking for the EE Game of the Year award that's voted by the public.
I was thinking about Returnal and Housemarque and how they've been around forever and just gradually got better and better. And to the point, they were doing quite small games back in the 90s. Well, I guess everyone was, but now really building up to something that wins Game of the Year at BAFTA, I think is super cool. And part of Sony now, as of last year, right? So, I think that I was thinking about Super Stardust, which I think was one of their games that Sony would use to try and eke out the new features of their hardware, as it was on PlayStation 4. Feels like they're doing something similar with PlayStation 5. And they just nailed it. So good for that team.
Have you guys played Unpacking? Have you tried that one?
No, it's on my list, actually. It looks like the sort of meditative game that I'd play. Yeah,
it's delightful. It's like really, really simple and, conservative in what it's trying to accomplish. But it's a fun little experience, and like really, as you said, it's like a cozy game, really relaxing.
What platforms is it
on? We played it on Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass.
Good old Game Pass. What makes it so delightful?
I mean, the whole premise of the game is that you're moving, like you're unpacking boxes and moving into a new apartment or room, and they sort of do a bit of story exposition through the room that you're unpacking. And so you have different things that you take out, and then you move through the character's life into different rooms, and you see how some of the items change. You see like mementos from their partner, and how those change over time. And you just get little hints at their story, but it's not full-blown exposition. But the actual sort of tasks that you're doing, just moving things around, rotating them, getting them into the perfect place, it's just very simple and straightforward, and like you can just kind of turn your brain off.
It's got a gorgeous art style. And also I think that one of the attributes, one of the things that people attribute to the success of Tetris and Candy Crush is it's people like making order out of chaos. And there's something that feels really good. It's like tidying your house feels good once you've done it. It feels good.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of taps into that a little bit.
Definitely.
Interesting. It does feel like I do some deep introspection about life and philosophy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that definitely sounds something I'd like to play.
Try it out.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
I was going to say the third one with Forza 5 by Playground. Was that, what did that win?
Best British game.
Okay, yeah, that looks excellent. That's one of the games where when I see YouTube videos of people playing that, it's unclear if it's real life or not.
Yeah.
It's that close, right? To me at least.
It's really impressive. And I love the art style as well, the bright colors. I like that. Yeah, but it's Returnal that's going to make me subscribe to the new PlayStation Plus tiers after having churned for about 2 years. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, good set of games there.
I'm sure I'm going to be awful at it. But Matt, you mentioned that you wanted to brag about your Elden Ring.
No, there's no
progression.
bragging. There's no bragging. I was just saying we could riff on Elden Ring now that I'm 80 hours into it or something. It's a great game.
That's the flex, isn't it? 80 hours in?
It's no flex. It's really like nothing to brag about. This is just what I'm doing after work. I dive into Elden Ring.
I'm still stuck with a prisoner on the first boss. I'm actually having a friend come over on the weekend so that he can pass the enemy for me.
Have you tried like summoning another player to help you out?
I don't have friends, no.
No, you don't have to have like friends in the game. They're just random people.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay,
here's the thing about Elden Ring and From Software. They don't explain anything to you, even like how to play multiplayer. So don't be afraid to Google things. I do this all the time. But there's a way that you can summon other players into your game to help you with a boss battle. You don't have to be connected on any social service. You don't have to actually be like, okay, add this friend. It's just anyone. And similarly, you can help other people by putting they call it a summon sign. You put it on the ground. Anyone else can summon you into their game. And it's like no risk for you. You get to sort of preview the boss before you get to them. And if you die, you don't lose anything. But if you win, you like help the other person and you get some amount of runes. And like, it's basically like it's a no loss scenario for you to help out other players.
I had no idea about this. Okay.
It changes the game.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I know what I'm doing later on. All right. No more Elden Ring talk. No more shame about my progression.
I was hoping Manu would be here so I could talk about it, but that's okay.
He was going to join us, but unfortunately he's a bit under the weather. So we'll have to save our NPC battle jokes for another time.
No.
But we're thinking about you, Manu. Okay, so Ubisoft. They ended their active development of Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And I think the game has always somewhat struggled with negative reception from launch. I think the team was very hard trying to improve it and doing updates and just trying to change things around. But I think they never were able to overcome the negative reception. And then Ubisoft decided to try their quartz, their digits. I think that's how they call their NFTs. And now they've announced that they're stopping updates. Like, they're going to continue maintaining the server so people can continue playing. I don't know, Matt, what do you think? Do you think it was all planned? They knew they were going to sunset the game at some point, and so the risk seemed worth it to try NFTs.
Maybe. I mean, I imagine a title of that size and a company of that size, they're doing planning that far in advance. They may not have known the exact date or quarter that they were going to sunset it, but they had to have seen the financial results and the player counts and, had some indication that it was going well or not well. I think that's probably one of the reasons they chose that game to test out NFTs, was because it was a low risk proposition for them. It's not a huge title in their portfolio, and they felt like maybe they could get away with it. And I think if you look at the numbers, I don't have them offhand, but it was like less than 100 NFTs were sold or acquired by players. So not exactly mass adoption. So I can kind of understand why Ubisoft did it in this title. And to answer your question, I think they had to have known at least partially this was going to happen.
How long had the game been out? I mean, when did the game come out?
October 2019.
Oh, okay. So it was sort of, as you say, Matt, maybe it felt like it was kind of on its way out already, and they were trying something out with NFTs in that. I mean, I don't think it's the NFTs that sank it particularly. I think it's just a game that was on its way out. And like a lot of games are on their way out, at some point you decide that you're not going to continue to live operate it. You just leave the servers on for a while until people stop showing up or something.
Speaking from experience, and granted my experience comes from the mobile side of the business, but sometimes if you're working on a game that is not sort of the jewel of the portfolio, it's somewhere in the middle, maybe it's going to be sunset, that's a great place for a company to try new things, to try and innovate. So if you have some sort of internal, it doesn't even have to be NFTs, you have some sort of internal initiative, maybe you want to do something risky with data science or try some crazy new game design or, whatever the case may be, a game like that you're not hanging your financial results on necessarily as an entire company, that's a great place to just try something out and see if it works. So, we can sort of debate the merits of how they approached NFTs, but just the idea of testing it in one of their games, this is probably the type of game that you would want to try it out in, right? Like low stakes. You don't expect it to necessarily take off, but if it does, that's great.
Well, and also you would think that they learn a lot from this.
Yeah, so, I would hope so.
I mean, it didn't go well, but as you said, it not going well in a game that's on its way out anyway is a great place to learn that stuff if you think this is going to be important in the future. So I'm sure there's tons of learnings there, and the next time they do this in another game, there's no talk of them not doing it right. They're still pursuing that course.
I'm sure.
I would think that the next time they do something like this, it will be better executed. I still admire them as a company for trying something. I think they got a lot right, but the message, the implementation was pretty good, but the messaging was maybe not there. Don't know.
Yeah, I know. A Hutch is similar. We use a past title to run experiences, for example, with new tech. So I know it happens quite a lot in mobile. I didn't have this notion that such AAA companies also did that with the titles that are going to be sunset. Maybe only started to pay attention now with that kind of detail in game dev, really. But I don't know, there was something about me that felt quite impressed knowing that, this was actually calculated in terms of doing this experimentation. And then if it doesn't work out, that's fine because the game is going to be sunset anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They mitigated that risk by trying some new stuff out in a game that was losing its players anyway, by the sounds of things.
One thing that left me wondering though is, so the players that have the digits, I think the digits haven't been sold that much on marketplaces.
I think I did see it, but it was like $2,500 worth. I mean, tiny.
Yeah. So what does it mean? Do you think, David, that we're going to see players being able to get a benefit if they own these digits from Breakpoint, maybe in a future Ubisoft game that will give them something?
With those 100 people that bought it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a tiny amount of people. But I mean, I think that's certainly, if I was Ubisoft, then maybe for PR, apart from anything else, you would say, okay, if you're one of those 100 people that bought the NFT in Breakpoint, then sure, you get to use it in this next game in this way. It gives you some kind of booster pack or something that ought to be fairly easy and sort of demonstrate the way that digital ownership works. I would think so. I would hope so. Although, truthfully, it's such a small volume of people that it's a speck in the scheme of things. It's more of a PR thing probably than a functional thing.
Yeah, I was thinking. We've seen Zynga. I believe they partnered with Forte to do the development of Web3 games. And was it Krafton that partnered with Solana?
Yeah.
Recently. Okay. So do you think, Matt, that this might be the path Ubisoft goes down? I know that they've been doing investments in Web3 gaming companies. Do you think they'll partner for a company external to Ubisoft to do the Web3 development like we've seen other companies do?
Excuse me. I'm not sure. I suppose that's one possibility. If I remember correctly, this initiative was done on Tezos, which was meant to be sort of an environmentally friendly blockchain. And that was one of the reasons why they chose it, because they were expecting that backlash. I can't say that I've heard of a number of gaming partnerships happening with Tezos. That just might be that I haven't been exposed to it, but I haven't heard any big news about that. It's possible that they continue down that path. Maybe they felt this didn't go so well, so we'll explore some other alternatives. But generally speaking, I kind of get the sense that companies like Ubisoft, like Take-Two, Activision, the big publishers, are going to wait for someone else to figure it out first, and then they'll follow in the steps of the smaller companies that are being a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, that's probably correct. I'd say a couple of things to be clear. I mean, you said that Zynga are leaning on Forte to do the Web3 development. To be clear, Forte offer is a suite of tools like game developers might use Unity in order to make a 3D game. Forte offer a set of technology that help you with minting NFTs and marketplaces and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really just a set of tools that a game maker can use to add blockchain functionality to their game. Which is how that stuff works. They're not actually building. Forte, best I know, don't actually build any games.
Oh, interesting. I thought I'm probably misunderstood then. I thought Zynga was working with Forte to essentially do XDev of the games. But I'm not in the space, so I don't trust my own understandings of it.
They've raised a lot of money, so they could do that. But I think they're using that money, or at least part of it, to incentivize game makers to use their blockchain and their set of tools. I think that them and Tezos and others, Mythical, etc., are trying to giving grants to encourage developers to use their tools and their blockchain so that they become the de facto game blockchain. It's sort of a race on between 4 or 5 different blockchains to try and make themselves the de facto blockchain, in the same way as Unity and Unreal try and make themselves the de facto engine.
Right. Yeah. Out of curiosity, David, you're the CEO of a company that's developing Web3 games. Do you feel any kind of pressure or all eyes on you from the big dogs of the industry? I love this term. Just watching what you're doing, and do you ever feel the pressure of defining a space and trying to find success that will eventually be replicated by bigger companies?
I don't feel the pressure. I feel I'm incentivized to do it because my intention is to try and establish that. What is the frame of reference that, Zynga, Take-Two, all of these companies are going to be looking for what is a Web3 game. And in a sense, there's a race between all the smaller companies like ours to try and figure out what that is so that we do become the frame of reference for people building Web3 games in the future. Just as I use Candy Crush as an example when I was building a free-to-play mobile company, because say that's how you do it. Look, they're making all that money and players love it, and millions of players. So I think I don't feel pressure to do that. I mean, that's obviously a corporate goal to try and figure that out ahead of other people. But if it's pressure, then it's positive pressure.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing.
And the other thing I was going to say, just to something Matt said about Tezos, I don't think you would say that the success of Ubisoft's games on the blockchain had anything to do with the chain that they were using. So I don't think any part of Tezos malfunctioned, or I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do. So if there were mistakes, then one of them wouldn't have been to use Tezos, in my mind.
Well, I wasn't going so much for the technology itself, but rather the community around it.
I'm agreeing with you. I think that that Tezos was actually a pretty smart choice for them. I think partly because it's it's a proof of stake chain, so they don't have the environmental concerns. So it was other things I think that caused the problem.
Sure.
I was looking into Tezos, and it seems that the marketplaces they integrate with are not the most popular ones. So I do wonder if maybe that's a competitive choice as well. I don't know enough.
I don't know. Did Ubisoft integrate their own marketplaces? I don't recall exactly how they implemented it.
No, we could go down a rabbit hole talking about bridges and marketplaces and liquidity pools, but I think we need Nico for that. So.
I was just about to say, this is going into Nico's crypto corner.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll do a quick segue into a happy topic that's not Web3, which is Epic's raise of $2 billion and a Lego collaboration. Well, not really a segue from Web3 because it's to build a metaverse. Metaverse is Web3, is it?
It is.
Okay, well, we'll dive into that. So I thought it was really funny to see the raise being announced. I was thinking that I was going to do an excellent pun about how much of an epic raise this was. Then I was going through social media and I saw so many people using the pun.
Still good.
Well, now I'm just referencing it and not actually making it. So I thought this was really interesting because I found if there's someone out there like these moguls of entertainment that know how to craft products that attract children, young teens, and also adults, like parents being able to play a game or interact with a product that they can build with their children. Epic and Lego, it just feels right. There's something about it that makes me really excited to see what they're going to develop. And they didn't share too many details, but they did share that a fundamental pillar of the metaverse they're going to build is going to be protecting the well-being of children. And personally, that's something that I've been a little bit concerned about with the concept of the metaverse, because you're increasing the contact points without supervision between children and anonymous users on the internet. So knowing that there's someone out there that is definitely building with the well-being of children in mind. And I kind of trust Epic and Lego to do that just because of the products that they already have.
It's an incredible partnership. I mean, for both parties, you got Lego who, I love Lego. Who doesn't love Lego? But nonetheless, they're a toy company making plastic toys in a time when things are going increasingly digital. I think probably Lego kicked themselves for not having invented Minecraft. It's Lego in a game in a sense, and that could have been theirs. That would have been the digital transition that they probably would have hoped for, but that wasn't them, right? And then subsequently you see Roblox, and it feels like the digital space for kids is getting away from Lego. And so they need to make a bold move and partner with somebody that can really make the digital transition. They have some great Lego games, but they're sort of, they're not a substitute for Lego. They're just a good implementation of a Lego game, if you see what I mean. And then from Epic's point of view, you can see that Minecraft and Roblox work where Lego is the brand that fits perfectly with that. And it's so well trusted, Lego. So you would imagine that parents would be happy to have their kids join a Lego space. Adults would still be comfortable in a Lego world, because It feels comfortable, reminds them of their childhood. So I think I'll come on to the money in a minute, but what an amazing partnership. What a great deal.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, David. I think it makes a lot of sense for both parties. When you think about the sort of target audience of a Fortnite and their competition against Minecraft, against Roblox, as you mentioned, I think Minecraft and Roblox tend to skew a little bit younger. Certainly Roblox does. And, to the point around safety for children, that's something that Roblox has traditionally hung their hat on, is that they have all these tools and systems in place to protect children. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to try and compete in that demographic for Epic, and Lego is a perfect brand to do that. And it's a natural fit for the whole idea of UGC and creators and looping that audience into your ecosystem. Fortnite already has a creator mode. You stack the Legos on top of it. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Lego, not Legos, though, just to be clear.
Excuse me.
I noticed that Maria did the same. So no, I'm just
Legos? But Lego, is it not Legos when it's a multiple Lego? Is it Lego pieces?
It depends what side of the Atlantic you are, but it's,
I'm on your side of the Atlantic, David.
Well, then you're the one in the wrong.
I am trying to make my English more British. Clearly failing at this.
Sorry, Matt. Sorry, that was mean of me.
That's okay.
But no
offense taken.
I really like the comparison with Roblox. And I think that the partnership with Lego is a competitive advantage for Epic, because people who are not very familiar with gaming are familiar with Lego. My mom doesn't know anything about games, but she knows Lego because I used to ask her all the time to buy me some. And maybe that will help with if parents who are not very aware of the gaming worlds by their children asking if they can join the Lego Metaverse. Maybe parents know the brand and will feel more comfortable in allowing them. And perhaps even because they're used to paying for Lego in real life, maybe the barrier to spend will also be lower if you're spending Lego for your children online.
Yeah, it's a trusted brand, and you spend more money with a trusted brand. If you think that Epic, who want to build the metaverse, that's sort of their North Star, that's everything lines up to that, have, I guess, three choices. You either evolve Fortnite, but that has limit. Already that's culturally a certain thing. It's the sort of thing you associate with 20-year-old, 30-year-old boys or something. I don't know, but it's certainly culturally one thing. It's maybe a bit of a push to expect that to extend to be the metaverse, even though it's hugely popular. Mm-hmm. And then they have another decision, which was we can start something brand new. But that's hard. It's hard to build an IP, even with infinite resources. The third thing is you can sort of stand on the shoulders of giants. So Lego is what an amazing starting point to do that. So it feels like a smart move. Lego feels like a much better fit for the metaverse than Fortnite for me, or something brand new that is just hard to go from a standing start, I would imagine.
Oh, that's such an interesting point. Yeah. I think I already made a mental categorization of what Fortnite is, and the brand doesn't attract me anymore, because I imagine it's these dances that teenagers and children are doing on YouTube, and it's very hard to win. I don't know. I've categorized Fortnite as a game for young people that I would, and I know that's not true. I know there's plenty of adults that engage with the game. But then thinking about Lego, I know a lot of adults that still buy Lego, and they have now the power to spend because they're quite expensive. So it's almost become a hobby, as an expensive hobby for an adult to have, to indulge. When you were a child, you couldn't buy it because it was quite expensive. But now as an adult, you have the purchasing power for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel Lego is attracting me more with how I categorize the type of fun I'm going to get.
Yeah, I mean, we have Lego in our office, if that gives you any indication of the age range.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's probably a good starting point for building a new metaverse, is building on the brand of Lego. And I don't think it's necessarily block building. I don't think that's what it will be. I think it will just be more themed like Lego. And as Matt says, probably leans into Lego is UGC, which seems like a good fit. The other thing I was going to say is about the raise. And I always like trying to figure out, when you hear a number like 2 billion, it's what does that get you? And the math the math that I always do is I imagine that it costs, let's say, $100,000 per person per year, as a rough ballpark. So at the risk of getting my maths wrong here, I think that works out at 20,000 person years worth of money. So yeah, so let's imagine you spend half of that on marketing. So now there's only 10,000 person years. Are you with me so far? Mm-hmm. And then let's imagine that you build the metaverse over 10 years. That's a team of 1,000 people over 10 years. That's what that pays for. So, and what is GTA? GTA is about 1,000 people. So, the team size. So sort of comparable with that. I mean, I guess that's right. But, when you look at that $2 billion, then you just see it as a number and go, oh, this sounds like a large amount. But it's enormous if it's to build a Lego metaverse. I mean, maybe that's what it takes. I'm not suggesting it's easy to do, but it's just a lot. If it's really spent on the production of that, then it's just like, I can't think of anything bigger that's been built.
That is such a great breakdown. I was trying to picture how much 2 billion. I've never had 2 billion in my life.
Never.
So I'm sorry to announce this. No. So I struggle to even picture owning that money. What does it pay for? That's really interesting, David.
So I think it's if they're really spending it on production, then they've really got a lot of people to get that right, to build something very rich. I mean, I'd love to know. I wonder what size Roblox the production team is on that. I doubt it's 1,000 people. I don't know.
Well, it's 1,000 plus everyone else that currently works at Epic.
Correct. I mean, but it's not saying, I don't know. They're not new hires necessarily, but I'm just saying it's just, either way, it's an enormous team.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we haven't spoken about is that the 2 billion, it was actually 1 billion from Sony and 1 billion from Kirkby, which is the investment company behind Lego. So Sony getting involved with 1 billion investment sounds like they've hedged their bet on.
Yeah, I don't think that maybe they feel that. I mean, I don't normally see Sony as I see them more as an electronics company than a network company. Japanese companies don't tend to be I think that I would give Epic a greater chance of creating the metaverse than Sony, because I think Sony's expertise is not in those sort of networked universes. I mean, PlayStation Home maybe a while ago, but that was about as close as they got. So if I was Sony, maybe you have a decision as to whether or not you put money into PlayStation or whether or not you put money into a company that stands a better chance of building the metaverse. No disrespect for anybody working at Sony, but I guess Epic has a better track record of building that kind of thing.
It's also not the first round of investment that Sony has put into Epic, as I recall. Right. And maybe it's there's a couple reasons. Like, I think Sony Music was one of the previous investors, and so Fortnite is sort of an outlet for them to promote their artists, perhaps to promote their movie IPs. And as we saw with the Bungie acquisition, there's a desire on Sony's part to have these multiplayer experiences that are not locked into the Game Pass ecosystem. So maybe there's a few other reasons as well.
Yeah, and also not a bad investment. I guess you would imagine that Epic, I mean, they're not publicly listed, but you would imagine that their private share price is their value is increasing over time, right? Certainly. So it's not spending money, it's investing money for Sony.
Yeah, and it also feels that Epic maybe has a head start as well, because they already have a good collection of the Epic online services. They have experience. They have experienced teams that have built a distribution product via their launcher. And I know a lot of games out there that choose to integrate with Epic Online Services instead of building their own game services, even, player data. So working with someone that has a track record, that has already done this successfully.
Well, I think it makes sense. What are the companies that are going to build the metaverse? I mean, who are the people that are likely to do it? You would say that maybe, metaverse means lots of things to different people. But I mean, I would say if you think that metaverse, we're kind of seeing it right now in Roblox and Minecraft, people spending a lot of time in line on Fortnite. So I would say it's likely one of those companies that stand the best chance. I don't think it's going to come from nowhere. I think it's going to come from people we know. So you would say that Epic are one of maybe 5 that stand a chance to build the metaverse, or a metaverse that is popular.
Yeah, I was thinking about, I think I saw an article this morning that Meta announced that in their metaverse, they're taking a cut of 40% or something like that from creators.
Yeah, it was almost 50%.
Oh.
It's crazy. It's like, I think 47 and a half.
Absolutely tone deaf. Oh, I could have gone into this one. But I mean, everybody else in Web3 is saying that we'll take 5-10%, and there's Meta looking to take 50, just absolutely tone deaf about what's going on in the industry. There we go. I'll go on record as saying I think I've already said, but I really hope it's not Meta that creates the metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have Apple in a lawsuit because the 30% is too high. Yes. And then Meta goes, oh, we can get more than that.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, and Epic already has maybe a reputation within game dev that they take lower cuts, for example. And so you prefer to put your game on Epic? Yeah, you want to be on that platform?
They're all for open standards. They're fighting Apple to create open distribution platforms, and they're, I think that they are a very fair company. I mean, they'll do things to be commercially successful, but that includes dropping the fee to distribute the game down to, 8% on the Epic Store? So usually their moves are in the favors of, they're developer friendly, right? Mm. Compared to Meta, as you say, doing 48%. Absolute bananas. Anyway.
I'm sorry, Meta, if you're hearing.
I know. I'm burning bridges here.
No. It's a fair assessment.
It's what we were all thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Before we move on, Maria, can I quickly return to an earlier topic? This will be quick, I promise.
Yeah.
So, okay, if we're talking about American English versus English, if it's Lego and not Legos, shouldn't it be math and not maths?
You see, I'm that guy that tries to correct people and then digs myself into a hole.
I mean, you said maths earlier, and I was like, what is that?
It's, let me come back to you next week with exactly why both my answers are correct there.
Get the Oxford English Dictionary and let me know. I'm just kidding, but
no. When I first moved to England from Portugal, I actually bought a grammar book to try to have better grammar, because I never really learned it formally. And then I swear, about half the book was about exceptions. So they tell me a rule, and then a few pages of all of the words that are exceptions. It's very complicated.
It's a mess of a language.
Just let you know that like most Americans, and I'm assuming most Brits, also did not know much grammar. Probably still don't.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not unique to people who don't speak
English. I'm going to stop
language.
being a pedant on this podcast. It doesn't put me in a good light.
You're meant to be the professor. You're just carrying on your reputation.
That's true.
I'm a stickler for grammar, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. So just last thing on the Lego metaverse. When I was reading this, I just started going into my deep space imagination, and I was imagining myself in this big empty room in a virtual space. I had my little map of the Lego, and then I could go walk and pick up the pieces and build this structure in this room. And there are two great things about it. It cost me less than it actually cost, hopefully, to buy an actual Lego set, because they are eye-watering expensive, that I currently don't make. And also, you don't require house space to keep your constructions. You just do it, and then you don't have to dust it, because it gathers a lot of dust.
Hey, I hope you're getting this, Tim Sweeney. We're getting the metaverse all planned out by Maria here. This is what the people want.
only cost 500 million for my ideas. It's okay.
Oh, that's pretty good.
This is why they took building out of Fortnite, so they could replace it with Legos.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, just question, Matt. If you could build something in Lego in this metaverse, what would it be? You have 5 seconds to answer.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Anything like probably some like massive building or tower of some kind. Like, I'm not very creative off the top of my head.
Okay, classic.
Time to think about this. Yeah, like a large building. I don't know.
David, what would you build?
I had 10 seconds more to think about that. I still got nothing. No, I think I would build a enormous sort of marble one. Do you know what I'm talking about? I like watching those contraptions on YouTube where the marble starts at the beginning.
Right.
Oh,
like a Rube Goldberg machine?
Yeah, there you go. And sometimes I see people doing that in Minecraft with carts. Right, anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure it's a great idea.
You know what? I would make my cat out of Legos. That's what I would do.
Oh, there you go.
That's you can make your corgi.
Wholesome.
I could do that too, yeah.
What about you, Maria? You've had 30 seconds now.
Oh, I would definitely build an enormous red panda, and then hopefully I can customize it with some kind of fuzzy fur, and it has haptic feelings, and then every day I could go in my metaverse and hug a red panda. That's really soft.
Surprisingly specific.
I know.
You just knew that.
Had I thought about this? I don't know.
A little bit.
All right, and then Miniclip.
Yes.
Pivoting away from web browser games, they launched miniclip.com on 2001, and we've had an episode reminiscing on what Miniclip games we played, and I think their current plan is that they're going to keep the website in its current format until summer of this year. Yes, we're in 2022, we are, to this year. So very soon they're going to pivot to mobile games, and the website is going to become for news and information about the company.
Yeah, to me, I mean, that isn't a huge surprise. I mean, well, I maybe I should look this up, but I would imagine I'd be surprised if the revenue from browser was anything more than single digits these days, percentage. I mean, I mean, sure they were the go-to. Them and Congregate, I guess, were the go-to for flash games back in the day. But that's not what people are playing, right? They've all moved to mobile, and maybe that's easier to monetize as well. So, and it's, I guess what games are they keeping online? They're keeping Agario and maybe 8-Ball Pool.
Yeah,
okay.
Those two, yeah.
So yeah, I think they're just focusing their energy on mobile. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, I think Congregate will become one of the only web browser platforms out there.
This is a poorly researched segment, but I think Congregate, didn't they move all the way to mobile? Do they have much of a web presence anymore?
I thought Congregate was making a blockchain play. I thought
they are. They're doing
direction.
that. I think that I'd be surprised if Congregate putting in a lot of energy into their browser games these days either. And I thought that they'd move right across to mobile, but hey, the playing field's wide open for browser games. Nobody's making that anymore.
I visited their website, their browser game website.
Who Congregate?
For Congregate, yeah.
Oh yeah, and
it's still there.
Okay, all right. So I just got it wrong.
But I didn't actually play a game, so maybe link out to the store.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a, I think I see that a lot of, Miniclip seems to be spending a lot of energy on mobile, have done for a while, a lot of acquisitions in mobile, some of which they announced, some of which they don't. I know some of the ones that they've acquired but haven't announced, which seems to be their way of doing things. And then there's bigger companies with Ilion, that make a bubble shooter game, which was massive, right, in terms of DAU. So I think that they are doing a lot in inorganic growth, i.e., acquiring companies, which seems to be their MO. And they seem to be focusing on getting players rather than necessarily getting revenue. I think the idea being that they can move players around because they've got such a high DAU from games like 8-Ball Pool that they can move players from game to game and save on some UA costs. And some people I know in the Miniclip family seem to tell me that works really well. So, yeah, and not too much of a surprise that they're doubling down on mobile.
I just tried a Congregate game and it does work. So,
It does work.
yeah. So
Okay.
they'll take
Okay.
maybe almost the full market of web browser games.
Maybe they will.
Yeah.
Whatever's left.
Yeah, it must be very small revenue if Miniclip is ready to not even maintain it and move on full to mobile.
Yeah, although ironically, blockchain games are generally being built in browser. I mean,
Right.
most, right? Because distribution is a problem. Can't put it on the Steam, can't put it on the app stores, can't put it on PlayStation stores, etc. So a lot of stuff going back to browser. And it's interesting speaking to Unity and saying, hey, how's your browser version of Unity going? He said, nobody's asked us that for 10 years, and now everyone's asking about it. You know?
Interesting, yeah.
And
yeah, but
it's not. Sorry, Maria. I was going to say it doesn't seem like it's that big of a pivot, right? Like going from browser games to mobile games. Like there was a little while back there was the push into instant games, which to me doesn't seem like too dissimilar from browser games, really. So it makes a lot of sense to me as an outside observer.
Yeah, and I believe Miniclip did an announcement that they're not anti-NFT. I think their announcement was that they're watching the space. And so maybe in the future they'll get into it, but they're not in a rush to jump into the market and lead it. So perhaps that's why they're okay to move away from the browser games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we talked about it earlier, didn't we? But I think it's a perfectly valid strategy for incumbent companies with successful franchises to say, look, we're just going to wait to see who figures this out, the blockchain stuff. And in the meantime, we'll just keep building Call of Duty and FIFA and, other enormous franchises. And when it becomes clear who really understands this stuff, then we'll throw good money at acquiring that company, much in the same as Activision did when they bought King a few years ago. So I don't think it's a poor strategy to wait to see which companies figure it out in the blockchain space. Yeah,
and I think Tencent has a majority stake in Miniclip.
Yeah, and I think they're wholly owned, aren't they?
Oh, fully owned. Okay, so. And they saw their domestic games market revenue go down. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is also part of Tencent's strategy to expand and have such a big company like Miniclip that is experienced, has a long-running history, to dive into mobile?
No, I think that, that's a podcast in itself, and also there's better experts on Tencent than me, but I think that a lot of what Tencent are trying to do is diversify everything, in terms of genre, but also in terms of geography, so that as a company they're not susceptible to changes in policy in the East, which is why they own the majority of Epic, all of Epic. I forget. No, not all of Epic. Of course not. We're just talking about that, but have a foothold in sumo. They wholly own sumo, and some pretty big
Riot Games, Supercell.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think you could say it's the mother of all spread bets, geographically, category, everything. And I'm sure, and I think they sort of leave those companies alone just to.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah. I don't think Miniclips makes up a big enough part of Tencent for it to be Tencent's strategy. I think it's just one part of the spread bet, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I was wondering, Matt, with your product manager hat on, and I was reading an interview of Miniclip's CEO where he was talking about how they don't focus on monetizing the game. I think David mentioned it a bit earlier on in his opinion, that they focus on getting a lot of players and having great retention metrics. And so they're playing the really long game. They've been around for 21 years or so. So they can afford the wait. And they're not looking to just get the max revenue that they can out of a short amount of space. Well, what do you think about this from a product management perspective?
Well, I'm not super familiar with their games, but it seems like they're all relatively like casual, small experiences. So usually the way that those get monetized is through ads. I can't speak for Miniclip specifically. I don't know if they use ad monetization, but that seems like a good fit for what you were just describing. And to link it back to our Tencent discussion, they're sort of known for come, stay, and then pay, right? That's their strategy, quote unquote. So you come, you stick around for a while, enjoy the game, and then eventually we'll get you to convert to a payer. And that strategy makes sense to me. But I mean, the cross promotion point is valid, like keeping players in your ecosystem, and especially if you're doing an ad monetization model, you're cycling them through the games, but they're also viewing ads in all of the games. So I could see that possibly working. I don't know what Miniclip is doing for monetization, but
I had a conversation with Sard about it. I hope it's not confidential. It's one of these. Don't think it is. Sard is the CEO, and I had a conversation with him about. So, one thing is about network LTV, the idea that you acquire somebody in one game and then you move them around. And so you can't just look at the LTV from one game that you've acquired them into. You have to look at the network of games that they play, which is one thing, and it's easy to make things add up. The UA get a positive return on ad spend if you look at network LTV and not just LTV. That's one thing. The other thing was, the bit that Sard told me was, I was asking him about payback windows. So I don't know what your payback windows, guys, are on your mobile games, but 3, 6, 9, 12 months. I guess 12 months on is the outside of where you would hope to see a return on the ad spend, right? Just to be clear, what ROAS is. And he was saying to me that, no, I'm happy to have a negative ROAS. And I said, well, that's just you losing money, isn't it? Why would you do that? His point was that it's brand building. So he's happy to lose money on getting 1 million people in, because now you've got a set of people playing it and it starts to become a thing. It's like it's brand advertising in the same way as advertising your game on the side of a bus is. Now you've got 1 million people playing it and it's a thing. And I just never thought of it like that. I've always thought of it as, hey, you've got to make sure that if you spend money on an ad, then you'll get a positive return on that after some period of time. And he appeared to have a different attitude to that. I mean, I'm not sure if that's borne out in the numbers, but it was a different way of thinking about things.
That's interesting. I've thought of that in more like multiplayer and PvP contexts, where like having a bunch of players has value in and of itself because it looks like the community is active and there's a bunch of people invested in a certain game. I've not thought about it from the context of the type of games that Miniclip is making, but that's really interesting. And then to your point about payback windows, I've actually seen like 2-3 year payback windows in mobile, at least. So that's actually not surprising to me.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't fully heard about negative payback windows.
Yeah. Well, and it may be, I mean, when you get to past a year, then it's quite hard to predict what's going to happen after a year. I mean, all sorts of things. We've had IDFA that's happened. Do you know what I mean? Sure. It's a long period of time to be confident in your ability to see return. So the further out you go, I think the more risky it comes. So maybe you take a more holistic view and it's just about building critical mass in a game, because you think that once you get to critical mass, whatever that is, then cool things start to happen. That's a bit vague, isn't it? But
well, it does feel with the cross promotion and bringing a lot of players in and keeping them in their ecosystem that Miniclip is potentially particularly ready to survive in a post-IDFA world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're probably better. The nature of their games is probably better for they could suffer IDFA better than most.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they'll probably be fine.
Well, and on a happy note, Miniclip just opened a studio in Portugal.
Oh, there you go. That's your home country, right?
It is. Portugal is a great country. So if you want some beach weather, I didn't get paid by Miniclip to say this, by the way, but I'm doing publicity to my country. Great place to live in. Very good choice, Miniclip.
Everything I hear about Portugal is good. Well, I've obviously visited. It's a very nice place in the world. Did they acquire a studio, or did they just set some? Must have been something that they acquired.
I think they just set
something up.
just set something up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Portugal is quite investment friendly for international countries. Cool. Well, that takes us to the end of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to talk a little bit about Take-Two and odd sort of financial mechanical things like what are the convertible notes and that kind of stuff. But maybe that's one for Aaron. Actually, that's the sort of thing that gets him excited, isn't it?
Well, but now you talked about it. David did the homework, and now I think he's sad that he's not going to be able to flex and show off his homework efforts. So we have 5 minutes left. We can talk about it.
I haven't got that much to say about it, Maria. It's like there's not even much to it, right? They are getting a loan because they can't quite have enough money to buy Zynga. Them buying Zynga is $13 billion, and they're looking for, let me see, like about 3, is it? 2.9?
2.7, billion.
Okay, so they're just getting a loan that will to be turned into shares at some point later, so they got enough money to buy Zynga. I think that's all that is. But, go on.
Do you think it was planned that they knew that they would have to take out? It seems like a huge loan. It's more than the raise that Epic got.
That's a good point. I guess that their market cap is big and can sustain that, and it all adds up. Truthfully, I've never worked at that part of that high up in a big public company to figure out how all that stuff works. It's just another world to me. But, I did do a little research. It's a loan in order to buy some shares later. It's quite a simple idea, I think.
Yeah, I assume they can default on the loan if it's a loan.
Well, if they default on it, that's a good question. And I'm glad you asked, Maria, because I also looked that up. That if the company goes bankrupt, then they're first in line to get paid back. So it's a special kind of loan.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they sell all their Aeron shares, and that pays for the $3 billion that they've, all their office furniture gets sold off to pay off. But I don't know how that stuff works. And also, I've got a feeling that somebody that's made it this far through the podcast is now listening to me talk about something I don't really understand. So I'm going to shut up.
This is the financial engineering section of the podcast.
Yeah. There you go, everyone. David's homework. Evidence presented. Well, thank you very much for joining, Matt and David.
Hey, it was fun.
Cheers.
If you are a listener or you're watching on YouTube and you think about what would you build in your Lego Metaverse, you can join us on the Naavik Discord and share. I'm very curious. I'm wondering if you can beat Fuzzy Red Panda.
Yeah, that's true. And, you're giving people more than 10 seconds to think about it as well.
Big tower. Big tower.
Yeah,
I'm going
sure
to keep
someone
that.
can come up with something better than large building.
Well, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week in the next episode. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Maria. Bye-bye. See you, Matt.